Thank you for joining us once again. Here we are before week 9. We're wrapping up the regular season. We started when it was hotter than Billy Blazes, and now we're into the real fall and Big Ten hitting weather. So we need to finish strong. We've worked all year. You've worked individually and as a crew. You've come a long way. The thing we have to do is to make sure that we prepare this week and just absolutely nail this last game. I'm going to talk a little bit more about playoffs at the end of when we're done with the video tonight. But our focus has clearly got to be on week 9. And when we're done with our games, Friday or Saturday as the game may dictate, then we can look ahead to the playoffs. Until then, let's not do that. So without further ado, let's jump right into our plays. And where we're going to start tonight is something that, in my estimation, is absolutely huge. That is crew communication. Now, we've got 2 clips from the Monroe-Bedford game last week. The first one is going to be a flag pickup. We're going to get a hold towards the top of the screen. Right up there by the wide receiver, 21 or 27, and we get a flag down, and it happens to be by our umpire. Now, oftentimes umpires can save our bacon, so I want to make sure that we don't discourage umpires from throwing on things that maybe they've got the best look in the house to see. In this particular case, we got help from both our field judge and also our back judge that this is a side block and one that we need to pick up. And as you can see, while it might look a bit suspect, and 27 did not make a very good case for himself by his body language, but nonetheless, it was a good flag pickup. And rather than letting a brother or sister official leave a flag down that we're not going to like, better for us to correct it on the field, have a referee announce that there's no foul for a block in the back. The result of the play is a touchdown. And then we move on. All right, so the next clip is going to be one of a similar nature where we're going to have a close out-of-bounds situation. And we're going to get an incomplete pass signal from, I believe this is this is second half. So this is field judge over here on press box side. Now you'll note that our short wing is looking right down the sideline at this and does a really nice job coming down with information. And we have a conversation, and the conversation should go something like this. What do you have? I have an out-of-bounds situation, incomplete pass. All right. What I saw was the receiver's right foot landing just in bounds, very close to the sideline, but clearly in bounds. And if that's what you have that creates an incomplete pass, then we need to reverse this. Well, then the decision that we have to come to is whether this receiver has broken the plane of the goal line or whether he is short of the goal line. In this particular instance, it appears that touchdown is the correct judgment. But 2 excellent examples of crew mechanics and communication. And we want to not only praise this crew, but also hope that others will emulate this kind of communication so that we get plays right. Nice job. All right, let's transition now to the Chelsea-Trenton game. Very, very competitive game decided with a last-second field goal. We're going to look at clip 55. This is going to be a targeting action right over the middle of the field. Now, we're going to get a late flag. Now, the other thing that you need to be aware of on this game is that this was a 6-person game. We do not have a back judge which would have been instrumental here. And it may be that the delay in the flag, or with the flag this is first half, so I'm assuming this is headlinesman. The reason for the late flag was that he remembered that the back judge was not in play and that we had to make a decision without the benefit of the back judge. But if you look at this from the standpoint of the player coming number 9, and I believe we've got an end zone view, he's going to lead with the helmet. He's going to take aim with the helmet. So we have 2 indicators: crown of the helmet and taking aim. Makes no attempt to come in and wrap this player up. This is an excellent call for targeting. Now, again, I want to praise the fact that just because we didn't have an initial flag doesn't mean that we should prevent us from coming in, throwing the flag, and then having conversation about what did or didn't happen here. The umpire might play a key role if he turns in time. We might get some help from the opposite side of the field, maybe even the referee, depending on whether the quarterback is threatened or not. But conventional wisdom will almost always be better than individual judgment. So we get this right. We get a flag down. It was not a disqualifying foul, which is a good decision. Certainly it didn't rise to the level of where we needed to disqualify. But glad we got a flag down. Good job by the crew. All right, the next clip is going to be 78. We're going to get a good holding call by the deep wing on a kickoff. Now, once again, we have to remember, in fact, well, we won't even get into 6-person mechanics because it doesn't happen that often. But the play, the hold actually occurred at about the 35-yard line. Now, the thing that I would say, deep wings, is this is an example of having to multitask. You still have a responsibility for your cushion, and you can see that our deep wing is still stationary at the 35 and actually gets past. Now, that's not the worst thing in the world, but particularly when we don't have a back judge, we need to understand that we don't want to be chasing plays from behind when we have no one ahead of it. So good job getting the foul, but what I would say from a teaching standpoint is continue with your cushion, being aware of where the runner is. Don't be concerned about getting the flag on the precise yard line. Just get it out there in the general direction. We'll get the flag located close to the spot, if not right on the spot, but continue to officiate in a multitask sort of way. All right, let's drop down to 105. What we're going to have here is a tight DPI play towards the top of the screen. Now, from the end zone view, which I want to go to right away, what you're going to see is this defensive back is going to come up and is going to be actively attempting to play this ball. This is not a matter where he is playing the man. He's coming up, attempting to intercept this pass, and we have a collision. Now, just based on the timing and where the bodies are, the defensive back is slightly behind the receiver. But if we put this in the context of playing the football, clearly the defensive back is playing it. This is close to bang bang anyway, and this is one that we do not want as a foul. Now, I can understand why it's thrown. I would expect that if we did have our back judge, that our back judge would come in and say, first of all, what do you have? And then go through the process with the deep wing in terms of, all right, the defensive back is definitely coming up attempting to play the ball. This is not playing the man, and this is very close to bang bang. Let's pick this up. All right, Gregor, let's drop down now to our Huron Pioneer game. 2 clips here. This first one is going to be from kick formation. No, this is going to be a free kick. Now, there was a question in terms of number 19 here. They're going to do the fake run up and then they're going to go back. And you're going to see that number 19 gets a little bit behind the 35-yard line, which is the back restraining line for Team A. I wouldn't trouble here. That's no big deal. If anything, we might say something to 19, make sure you stay on this side of the line, but let's not get into that detail. The thing that we want to look at is the action that's going to happen at the end of the play. We're going to get a tackle, pretty standard tackle. I don't see anything that's really particularly unusual about it, but this is a fierce rivalry, and the players are not going to be too pleased with each other at the end of the play. So takedown, number 2 gives him a shove. That clearly is enough for a foul. That is an unnecessary act, and certainly something that if we don't penalize, could have detrimental consequences for the safety of the players, but more significantly, our game control. Now, it looks like cooler heads prevail with adults on the sideline. We can't always count on them to be acting in the best interest of the game. So in this particular case, it worked out okay, but clearly we need to get a flag down, not a disqualifying foul, but certainly something that we should penalize as a UNR. This is still associated with the play, so we don't need to make this a UNS. It's closely attached enough that it belongs in the UNR category rather than UNS. But definitely something we want called, and we need to get multiple officials in here to clean this up, separate players, get the blue, I believe that is a blue, or maybe it's a black uniform, out of the visitors bench. Get everybody back where they belong. Okay, next clip is number 90. We're going to have a potential DPI here, so let's evaluate this in terms of whether this would be a quality foul or not. Actually, I believe those jerseys are dark green rather than black, but not sure. All right, now, here's our thing. We're not going to get an end zone view of this, and a problem that we have, and you hear me talk all the time about the importance of mechanics. Here is the primo example of why we need to have back judges that have good depth. The back judge is essentially on the same plane as this pass with the being contested by the receiver and the defensive back. We don't have the benefit of looking at this from behind. The deep wing is actually deeper than our back judge, and he's not particularly deep. I'd like to see him a little bit deeper, but the back judge for sure is at least 7 yards short of where he ought to be, maybe even 10, to be able to look through this, because the issue is, what does the defensive back do with his right arm? Now, we're not going to be able to discern that from this view. We don't have an end zone view. I'm suspicious, though, that this right arm is on the shoulder of the receiver, restricting him from jumping to catch the ball, and also being used as a catapult effect for him to go up and either deflect the ball or intercept it. But without end zone view, can't really be certain, so we'll go with the call on the field. But mechanically, particularly back judges, we have to do better than that. We have to be deeper so that we actually get a look to see what happens. Okay, next clip. Let's now go to another game in the SEC, and that was the Lincoln-Dexter game. Now, this was not a competitive game. Dexter put it on Lincoln pretty hard, but everyone, for the most part, behaved themselves, which was nice. But there were some good learning opportunities from this game. Now, right off the bat, this is clip number 2. So we got to make sure that we're loose, we're ready to go. Everybody is mentally ready from that opening kickoff. This is the first play from scrimmage. So buckle up. Here we go. Right off the bat, we've got to read and react. This runner busts through the line. He's through the linebackers, goes untouched for about 80 yards, 75. Now, we do a nice job here from a deep three perspective. We recognize this right away. You can see our side judge, or maybe field judge at the bottom of the screen. He gets going pretty quick, and we get really, really close. Back judge reads it, gets back to the goal line. The side judge at the top of the screen. Now, the thing that I would just remind everyone, the importance of keeping those shoulders square to the sideline. I know you're not as fast when you're running in that way as if you are straight on, but we'll sacrifice a little bit of speed and distance that we will get for the benefit of seeing players while we are in full commitment retreat mode. But good job by the crew, but we got to be ready from the first snap. All right, clip number 7. Now, this is going to be OPI action, but it's going to be away from the play. It's going to be down here at the bottom of the screen. This is, I hope you will recognize this clearly as picking action and something that we've got to see. Comes out, you can see that wide receiver just comes out, seeks out that defensive back, initiates contact, and displaces him. So if this pass is thrown to this third or half of the field, would expect that we'd have a flag down for OPI on this receiver. Now, as the case happens here, he throws the ball over the middle, it's intercepted, and it goes back for a pick 6. Nice job in reverse mechanics by the crew getting back to the goal line, having the referee on the goal line to bracket this play with the short wing. So well officiated play, good decision not to have a flag down for OPI, but something that we should talk about. Hey, did you see what wide receiver so-and-so did, so that we're alert to it throughout the game, because it may well happen again. And then we should go a step further and make sure that with the player, we let him know that we saw what he did. And then the third piece would be we need to get to the head coach and do the same thing. All right, let's drop down to 26. This is going to be the poster child for why punt mechanics are important and why we don't want to charge the stage, and why we need to have somewhere at least 7 yards cushion between ourselves and the kick returner. Kick returner is going to come back, misplay the ball. It's going to get muffed there again. So we had 2 muffs before it is recovered by blue. Let's take this and let's say that this blue player also muffs it and it continues to parlay itself back towards the goal line. We want to make sure that we have all 3 of our deep officials in a position to make determinations in terms of possession, in terms of recovery, in terms of the goal line if it gets that far back. Now, a rhetorical question that hopefully everyone on the call will know is if this ball, either by its location or the number of times it is muffed, if we do not have any possession during this loose ball, if this ball breaks the plane of the goal line, the outcome should be what? Hopefully everyone would say this is a touchback. The force or the impetus remains to be the kick, even though it is muffed by multiple people. So if this breaks the plane of the goal line, it's going to be a touchback, and we would put the ball in the 20-yard line. Back judge does a nice job, keeps the whistle out of his mouth. We can't really see what the deep wings do, but certainly a reason for us to have reinforcement for properly executing punt mechanics. You can see the deep wing at the top is starting to give ground. We always want to make sure that we keep that cushion behind the football. All right, let's take a look at 39 now. This is not going to be another good example of read and react by our deep wing. That this is one, and we've talked about it again at different times throughout the season, that as deep wings, we cannot have tunnel vision in terms of our key or our side of the field. The way we defend and the way we cover action like this is to make sure that the widest threat on our side of the field goes on our outside eye. So for the field judge in this particular instance, excuse me, side judge, because we're on press box side, um, would be to put that widest threat on his outside eye, which would be his right eye, which then opens peripheral vision to see this receiver coming from the other side of the field and get started with a retreat. And you can see shoulders are pretty much square to the sideline. He gives ground and waits for the short wing to come up and square off the spot. Nice job by our deep wing. All right, number 42. We're going to miss one here. And from a quality foul perspective, you've heard me say ad nauseum that if we're going to miss, let's miss on something that is a foul that we don't flag, as opposed to having a marginal and certainly an incomplete or incorrect. Our left tackle is going to be the offender here. And you can see that he's going to lock this guy up pretty well. He's going to turn him. This guy is trying to get away, essentially turns him at least 90 degrees, takes him out of the play. This is a foul that we would like to get down for holding. If this was an 8-person game, the center judge would be all over this. But in 7, the first responsibility of the short wing is to get to the goal line, find the goal line extended, and then work back from there. Now, in this particular case, if side judge can clear hit, the deep wing on this side of the field, which I believe is the side judge, if he can clear himself and have confidence that there is no immediate threat with a key or something on his or her side of the field, then by all means check down towards the inside and potentially pick this up. But don't guess. If you don't see enough of this to know what actually took place, we'll go with the call on the field, we'll live with the no call, and we'll play on. Probably back judge is not going to be able to help here. There's just too much traffic that's in front of him to be able to get a good look at that particular block. Tough play. And by the way, I should also mention, well done by our short wing to ring this up as a touchdown. Runner is still up, and it makes contact with the pylon. The only way this is not a touchdown is if he touches something out of bounds, or the force of this tackle takes him outside of the pylon. But it appears to me that he got a piece of the pylon and therefore a touchdown. All right, let's go to 67. This is going to be a good reaction by our side judge to an opponent out of bounds. This is going to be a free kick, and we're going to get a block that occurs right there at about the 25. And this blocker takes this guy down out of bounds. Now, it appears to me that this is a continuation of a block. I don't see a second act that would make this necessarily a UNR foul for a block out of bounds. But it's certainly something we need to make sure that we clean up. And you can see our side judge comes down as quickly as he can and brings the players back out. Short wing is going to be probably occupied with this runner that is under duress from a tackle. So he's probably not going to be much help. It's pretty much the side judge or no one to take care of this. So well done by our side judge. All right, 91, Gregor. What we're going to get here is an example of the importance of finishing a play. What we're going to get is a foul. Foul has occurred by the defensive back. Now, too often when we throw our flag, we're concerned about getting the flag to the exact spot, or something else distracts us and we fail to finish the play. What you're going to get here is our side judge correctly goes back to the action and is able to make a definite positive and correct decision in terms of the receiver completing the catch in bounds and rules this a touchdown. We have to finish plays. Sometimes we finish plays with incomplete signals. Sometimes we finish plays with stop the clock signals. In this particular case, this was finished with a touchdown signal. Good job. All right, 104. Just another reminder that scrimmage or field goals are scrimmage kicks, and not to break anybody's heart here and take away from the drama, but this is a block kick. So just like in punt situations, the neutral zone becomes absolutely essential. Line of scrimmage guys, and maybe at times even our umpire, or in this case, the double umpire being the side judge, we have got to know for sure where this ball lands, because once it lands beyond the line, doesn't matter whether it rebounds back behind the line, its status is still beyond the line, and therefore it would be treated accordingly. Now, the other factor we have to consider is because this kick comes down on B's side of the neutral zone, once they touch it, if they muff this thing around and Team A ends up with it at the end of the play, we've got a 1st and 10 for Team A. So all of that becomes absolutely crucial. We have to think those things through. We have to, first of all, recognize that this is a scrimmage kick. It's not a PAT, and officiated accordingly. All right, next clip. 107. Now, what we're going to get is Team B has too many players out there, and the snap is imminent, and you can see this substitute that is at about the end recognizes he's probably not going to make it all the way over to the sideline. So he diverts and goes out of bounds across the end line, which is an immediate dead ball foul for illegal substitution, which we get. Nicely done. Now, just to make sure that we're clear, departing players, they don't have to get to their team bench. This player could have satisfied this rule if he had run across the end line in the end zone. But when he crosses the end line, I said end line, I meant sideline. If he crosses the sideline in the end zone, he's met the requirement of the rule of going out on his side of the field. But when he goes out on the end line, he's automatically fouled. So good alert by the crew to get this. Okay, let's now go to MHSA football officials, and we'll start with our Franklin John Glenn game. Another really tough ball game that went back and forth, and a lot of fun, I'm sure, to work. Let's go to clip 39, Gregor. You've heard me talk of the importance of never assuming that a runner is going to be tackled or driven out of bounds. Now, we're going to break some tackles. You can see that the deep wing has assumed that the runner was going to be tackled quite early in this running play and basically drops the anchor. And now all of a sudden the runner breaks out. All right, it looks like he's going to step out of bounds a couple times. I looked at this in slow motion. He didn't step on the line. He went all the way down that sideline for a score. So deep wings and back judges, we've got to continue to keep our cushion. Do not assume that a runner is going to be tackled or driven out of bounds. Continue with your retreat until it actually happens. Then we can pull up, and then we can go into dead ball officiating from there. All right, clip 47. Now, this is going to be a classic setup for a blindside block. And as you'll see here, the guy gets nailed from the side. So as a deep wing, we need to be looking at point of attack. Now, after the ball is firmly possessed, now our short wing can join point of attack. But until we get a determination forward, backwards, or as the case may be, that we have firm control of the pass, this is slightly forward, not by very much. All right, once the catch is secured, short wings, let him go. And now you need to look ahead of and to the interference. But until that happens, deep wings and back judges have got to assume that they've got everything. And we should see that block coming. Back judge, and let's see, this is early in the game, so this is going to be our field judge. We got to see that block coming. We can't be surprised and, oh my gosh, what happened there? No, we've got to see it coming. We might even get some help from our umpire. Might see that, but we need one down, and we didn't get one down there. We played through that. All right, let's go to 51. Something else you've heard me talk about is pre-snap and what possibilities can transpire from various formations. So if we go back to the snap, we know that because of this formation, back judge is going to be taking the inside receiver at the top of the screen, meaning that the short or the deep wing is going to have this widest guy. So the deep wing at the bottom of the screen has to recognize this is one-on-one coverage, and a fade is a likely outcome in this particular case. Now at the top of the screen with two receivers and then also a recognition that we've got a running back that could quickly get into this pattern on the short side, we need to be thinking OPI. Are we going to have picking action? Are we going to have one or both of these receivers block one or both of these defensive backs, which is going to create an opportunity for this running back to catch something downfield? Now, if this running back touches the ball behind the line, all bets are off. We don't have OPI, which again brings us back to the importance of the short wing, always knowing on every single pass play whether the pass is touched beyond or behind the line. If it's not discernibly beyond, we treat it as being behind the line. But we have to know our deeps are going to come to you in given situations involving OPI, perhaps ineligibles downfield. So we have to know. All right, number 57, just something that is always worthy of us to think about and talk about is catch, no catch. All right, now this happens to be the defensive back jumping the route. So for this to be a catch, we know, first of all, we have to have firm control of the ball. So if the receiver, in this case, the defensive back, does not have firm control of the ball, then we're not going to have a catch. But once we see firm control, all right, now we got to have a body part down in bounds. And then the third component that applied here is because he's going to the ground, he has to survive the ground. So as a result of hitting the ground, in this particular case, if he doesn't hold on to that ball, we have an incomplete pass. Now, the other component that we have to consider is that this guy falls towards the short wing. The back wing or the deep wing can help with aspects of perhaps where he was in bounds. We're not going to be able to help with firm control. And we, in this instance, probably are not going to be able to help whether he survives the ground. That's going to be one that's pretty much a solo for our short wing. And it could happen in reverse where it would face the deep wing, and then the reverse would be true, that the solo effort is going to be on the part of the deep wing, perhaps with some help from our back judge. All right, let's go to 58. What we want to talk about here, what's going to happen is what is our threshold for UNS? What we're going to get is this defensive player is pretty happy with the play that they just made. Now, his teammate does a really, really nice job. We don't know exactly what 51's intentions are here. But this defensive player pretty well turns him back towards the huddle, and no damage is really done. You know, football is a game of great emotion, and we don't want to take emotion away from the players, but we cannot allow them to taunt or in any way entice a problem from an opponent, either individually or a bench or a coach or whatever you have. So if we have the opportunity, probably ought to thank that defensive player for aiding his teammate to stay out of trouble. But if we have something that's right on the edge that we don't foul, probably a good idea to come in and speak to that player and also to mention that to his coach. All right, number 69. Once again, this is going to be a middle screen, and we have the benefit of a big line, which is of tremendous help. Now, in this particular case, this is discernibly beyond the line. I think you can see clearly that this pass is going to be touched at least a full yard beyond the line. Right? All right, now, so then our decision is not based on ineligible downfield at this point. Our decision has to be made on the basis of when this pass is released. So if you run it back again to the release point of the quarterback, this is where we need to make our determination in terms of whether these linemen are ineligibly downfield or not. The ball has just been released, and those linemen are just past that big line. So this is a legal play from the standpoint of ineligibles downfield, because they're not more than 2 yards beyond the line of scrimmage at the time the ball is released. Even though the pass crosses the line, we don't have ineligibles downfield. Now, if we have blocking downfield, all right, that's a horse of a different color. And yes, we could have OPI because the pass is discernibly touched beyond the line. Important distinction, and something we ought to review as we head into week 9, and certainly as we get into the playoffs, when we're going to be down 2 officials for the first 3 rounds. So our communication and all of those concepts that we've been talking about all year become magnified because we're going to have 2 less officials on the field. All right, let's go to 86, Gregor. The question I have for you is this blocking mode? Is this blocking mode by the wide receiver? So run it back. That's really the whole purpose of this particular clip, is the wide receiver at the top. Is this blocking mode? Because this pass is about a yard beyond the line. Now, whether that was the intent of the play, that's not our problem. That's a coaching and a playing situation that has to be squared away. So what we need to do is to make a determination whether we feel that this is blocking action or not. I would say that it's still pretty passive. The question would be, again, when is the pass touched compared to when the block actually when the contact actually becomes a block. Right now, they're sort of dancing over there. The defensive back is pretty much in dance mode with his partner over there. So I think we're okay without calling this a block, just because things are so passive over there. But once we get into it, and once we start getting action with the arms of the blocker, now we can no longer say that it's a dancing routine. Now it's a blocking mode. And of course, as we've been talking about on non-safety and non-sporting fouls, we want it to be very, very clear. Intent to impede is obvious, and intent to impede is not obvious early in that particular route when this wide receiver is dancing with the defensive back. All right, 95. That's the last play in this clip, Gregor. All right, now who's going to be eligible to kick this ball? Let's put it back to the beginning. All right, so where people are lined up, who's eligible? I hope that what you would say is any one of those 11 players potentially can kick this ball. So what we're going to get later is going to be an onside kick situation where the kicker starts on the other side of the 35. And in that particular case, there's only one guy that can kick the ball. And that's the guy that lines up or starts his approach to the ball on the other side of the 35. We've got to know that. We cannot wait until a short kick occurs and then say, well, who kicked the ball? We got to know who kicked the ball and where. There it is. Okay. So the guy who we think is the kicker is actually not the guy that kicks the ball, which is fine here because everybody's on the right side of the 35. And it ends up, after being muffed by a player of Team B, ends up being recovered by Team A further down the field. Now, once Team A is eligible to touch, now obviously they can't foul, they can't target, they can't block below the waist, but they can do just about anything else in an attempt, a legitimate attempt to field the ball. So again, we need to be aware of that, thinking about that before every kick. And as you know, every free kick is a short kick until it's not. All right.
So can you blow that dead right away since the guy is not
Yes,
behind the
that's
line for kicking?
that as I understand the Federation rule, that would be a dead ball foul because the wrong guy kicked the ball. Whoever asked that, thank you.
Yeah, that's me. It's Ted. I'm a first year official, so I'm just trying to understand.
Good for you. First of all, good for you that that came to mind, and secondly, good for you that you have the intestinal fortitude to speak up.
Oh yeah, no, I'm enjoying the first year of it and just here to learn and keep learning.
Aren't we all? You know,
Yeah, no, it's a great. What you do is great. It's
well,
my favorite day of the week.
we all should be in a continuous learning mode. Um, I still learn to this day after, I believe, 50 years now of being involved in football. I'm still learning. So, all right. So enough of the short kick. Gregor, let's go to Grand Blanc and Davison. We're doing well for time. All right, let's go to clip two, number 12. We're going to have trips to the bottom of the screen. Now, back judge, number 12. Back judge, you have the inside receiver, correct? I, what we need to do is to be aware of the pattern that's coming from the strong side of the field. The back judge's key is which player? Okay, back judge is the slot guy. Is that what we're saying?
Yeah, Rich, I'd say the slot receiver.
Okay. So we have to be aware, as from an earlier clip, that actually a deep receiver can come from anywhere on the field. So back judges, it's important that we start with the proper depth, at least 25, and I would say as deep as 27. If you find yourself immediately backing up at the snap, you're too close to the line of scrimmage. Back up a step so that you have the confidence to read and react. All right. So we've got to see this coming. As you're going to see, our back judge ends up too close to him. Comes from the outside, but we got to see that. All right. I understand his key was slanting. Okay. I get it. But man, if we're putting our nose on our slanting receiver, we're in big time trouble. That's where we've got to have the wide vision, the peripheral, to be able to see that receiver coming from the widest position to the bottom of the screen. And we get surprised, and that's never a good idea. All right, let's drop down to number 26. All right, what we're going to get is the defensive back and wide receiver engaging at the bottom. Now, this action, back it up. This is the responsibility of the deep wing. So down here at the bottom of the screen, now, I would say that's not enough for a foul. You know, this is big boy football, and we're going to be heading into the playoffs when it's all going to be big boy football, and we just have to have something bigger and better than that to pull out the laundry. Make that guy get off of that block. Now, the issue here is, first of all, did our deep wing see it? If he did, good for him, but we also have to continue with our retreat multitask again so that we don't get beat on this play. Now, as it works out, in this particular case, the runner is tackled. This is not your spot. We move up much, much too quickly. This is a low impact situation near the sideline. There's just not a lot going on here. It doesn't go deep into the bench, so we don't need to be that aggressive coming up. Our responsibility is to go deep or keep that deep perspective. Okay, number 42. This is going to be another example of, or a discussion point of, what is our threshold for unsportsmanlike conduct? Pretty standard situation. Kick returner elects not to make a fair catch, but if you run that back, you're going to see that this guy is pretty happy about the fact this guy is tackled. Now, if he does not stay there very long, you know, he moves by, I'm good with that without a foul, unless he wants to talk about this guy's family, or something is said of an inappropriate basis, right? Then we're going to get that. But again, this is an opportunity for us to be preventative and make sure that we've got people behaving themselves and that they're celebrating with teammates and not putting it on an opponent. So this is a good no call. I would support no UNS here. You can see our back judge moves up too quickly, in my view, too concerned about forward progress. We need him or her to stay back and observe these players around the dead ball spot. We've got deep wings, very capable deep wings that are going to come up and make a determination as far as a yard line to start this drive. Back judges, stay out of that. Stay out of forward progress. I don't know whether the back judge would have recognized if we'd had a problem there with 23 or not, because he's concerned about coming up to a forward progress spot. So let everyone do their job. In this case, it would be the deep wing's job to determine that forward progress spot. All right, let's look at 49. Kick returner is going to point at the ball here. And this is a good reminder of what our threshold is for an invalid signal. Whether he is pointing at the ball with one hand or two hands, as long as he keeps those arms below the shoulders, we're going to be okay with that. As soon as those arms get above the shoulders, that is an invalid signal, and no one is going to be able to return this ball. We're going to shut it down, and we're going to charge that as an invalid signal to the kick returner. There again, our back judge is up there. You know, he can't see the ball anyway. Why would we be up there this close? Continue to stay back. You'll be amazed what you can see if you stay back there out of the way. All right, number 72. Week 9, teams have been practicing special plays all year. Kids like trick plays. They love them. Double reverse passes, all that sort of thing. I think it takes all of us back to our childhood. So we get a double reverse pass, and then we get a throwback to one of the people that went in motion. And the defense bites. They don't cover this guy. That's fine. That's their problem. But from an officiating standpoint, we can't get fooled. We've got to respect our position. We've got to be aware when we see something that doesn't look right. It's something that's unusual from what the normal sort of play would occur. We need to go, okay, what's up? So you can see this deep wing does a really nice job holding his position and being at the goal line to receive this play. So be alert. In fact, trick plays can come out of nowhere. They can come out. You can have a reverse on the opening kickoff. You can have first play from scrimmage, something goofy. So we have to be ready at all times, but there are certain times in the game where it appears to be a big play. Key the mic, be alert, be on your toes. That doesn't hurt a thing. And it might help us rather than being embarrassed by what occurs. All right, number 111. This is going to be another great example of teamwork in terms of catch, no catch, or an opportunity for teamwork. You can see we have differing opinions in terms of whether this is a catch or not. The offense wants us to believe that the catch was complete. The body language of the defensive players is they think the ball's on the deck. All right. So here's an opportunity. Back judges, you should have a good look at this. Where else are you looking? Okay. We know he needs to survive the ground. Is this ball coming out? Or does the ball come out after he hits the turf? In other words, the catching process was complete and it was just a matter of the ground causing the fumble. All those things we have to consider. Now, we don't get the back judge involved in this, which in my way of thinking is a mistake. Back judges, you ought to take it upon yourself to get in there and listen to the conversation and give your input. Don't wait to be invited to the party. All right, number 141. What we're going to have here is coverage by our keys and then the old aspect of our transition blocking. We're going to get a play that's going to come towards the bottom of the screen. So our first decision is right there at the corner. Now that jumped on us, Gregor. Let's go back. Now, that's probably going to be the decision of the short wing. Okay, it looks like the guard. He's going to have the best look. That looks like it's okay. Now we got a decision that we need to make that's going to be out here by this guy that it appears like he's thinking about this being a blindside block. Right there. All right. Now, the guy is kind of like, he goes, they've been telling me about this blindside block rule. So maybe I'll just kind of stand here like I'm boxing out on a basketball rebound, and I'm just not going to do anything. I'm just going to be really passive. I'm okay with a no call there. And then our deep wing is in position to receive this at the goal line. Now, once again, remember deep wings, you want to keep that area behind the goal line clear so you can back up to the limit line if you want to, and you're not going to back into a camera guy or a cheerleader or someone, with a microphone like the guy in the red coat. He doesn't need to be that close. He can be back around the yellow line as opposed to the white line, but we certainly want everyone behind that white line. Now, there was a block there at about the 12-yard line. I would say that that's going to be back judge. That's one that you're going to make a determination on in terms of whether that's a good block or not. You can see the defender sticks his arm out there. He's clearly aware of it, probably gets caught up in just getting run over. And then you can see that our deep wing actually potentially gets rolled up on here at the end of the play with players that are pursuing. And that's, yet another reason why we want to be back at the limit line, to not only have a great look at the pylon, but also to be out of harm's way. Whoa, that's pretty close with that Grand Blank player. All right, 152. Once again, this is going to be an opportunity to get involved in a conversation. See, we've got, again, differing opinions. Is this a catch and no catch? Things are pretty passive here. And you got the deep wing coming clear across the field to get involved in this conversation. Once the play ends, once we have players separated, we need to get together. See, he starts to signal incomplete. Do you see the back judge's hands? Now, he needs to come up. Excuse me, he needs to come up and give his information, and we need to get a determination a little quicker than we do. The other thing that hopefully you noticed is that the deep wing was badly beaten on this play. He should have been back at the goal line, which also probably would have given him a better view of what occurred here. So bad mechanics or incorrect mechanics put us in bad positions, and that leads to tough judgments. All right, 153. As you know, blocks in the back don't have to be real severe to be effective. So that little block right there by that wide receiver might have been enough to put this guy by. That's something, and again, we might have some teamwork involved here where our deep wing throws a flag for block in the back, and the back judge comes in and says, you know, I had a good look at that. There's no contact there. Let's pick that flag up. We need to work together to get it. And then, of course, this play ends and our deep wing does not proceed with his cushion downfield. All right, last clip of the night is number 154. This goes back to our OPI philosophy. Judge the block or the action out here by the wide receiver. What is the timing here in terms of this pass being caught? Now, initially, if you go back and deep wings, this is going to be your bogey out here at the bottom of the screen. And this guy is in press coverage, so you're going to want to keep close awareness of what goes on here. All right, now watch the players initially. Okay, nothing really going on there. All right, now this wide receiver can see this ball is now going to be thrown to a teammate, and he goes from dancing mode to blocking mode. Now, by rule, he can't block until this pass is touched. And you can see that his blocking actually started when the ball is about halfway to the receiver. So this would be an example of OPI. This ball is going to that side of the field. This ball is thrown to the bottom of the screen. We're not going to trouble. We're going to stay off of that. We're going to make that a talk to. But here, the short wing correctly gets a flag down. Now, I'd like to see a flag down by the deep wing as well, because that is his key. All righty. We covered a lot of area. A number of plays from a number of games. All good stuff. Our officiating, our mechanics throughout this year has continued to improve. When we have people that either are working out of position at a deep wing or are new to the position, it's pretty apparent based on their reaction and their mechanics, but we're getting fewer and fewer of those things occurring, or at least coming up as we are studying video. And that's a good thing, which means that we're building our capacity for this position, these two positions, the two deep wings, and that is going to bode well and put a lot of people in better position to assume these assignments for semis and finals, and hopefully someday sooner in the playoffs. So speaking of playoffs, I'm certainly aware that playoff assignments were made or came out on Tuesday or yesterday, Monday. And I suppose that's a good thing. They have to come out at some point. And it's probably good that they came out early in the week so that we can get all of the conversations taken care of across the state, within our crew, within our association, taken care of early in the week so that we can set aside what's going to happen the first week of the playoffs and put our focus on week 9 in finishing this season. Referees, I would encourage you to kind of put a moratorium on conversations about playoffs from this point forward in the week so that your focus is on wherever you're going to work on Friday or Saturday this week. Once that game is over, once you're in the locker room, once you've taken your shower or you're on your way to the local watering hole, by all means, feel free to get into that playoff stuff and chomp it up to whatever degree you want to. Until then, let's keep the focus where it belongs.